Hi there, my name is Tom Bell, and welcome to my 5 Minute Friday videocast on the 28th of November. I'll try not to mention the C word during this podcast. I'm an author, frustrated justice seeker, a former NHS whistleblower, and now full-time PhD student. Today I'm going to introduce you to a concept called failure demand. Some of you may be familiar with it, but some of you may not. Failure demand, that's going to be really important. And I'm going to talk about it in the context of public services and their inability to have meaningful conversations with people. Anybody who's ever tried to engage with a public service, whether it's HMRC, whether it's the police, whether it's the Crown Prosecution Service, NHS, the list goes on, you'll identify with this. You'll kind of know where I'm coming from. And the reason it struck me was I've got a meeting with my local MP tomorrow to talk about something. It relates to the coroner's service. It's a long story, and I'm not going to bore you with it. It would certainly take a lot more than 5 minutes if I did. But one of the things I'll be discussing is this issue that when you approach a public service and you want to ask a question, so you kind of want to start a conversation, the response is, the default response is there's a process. Let me bring this to life for you. So when I was talking to Cumbria Police a number of years ago about some issues, again, long story, I counted up the number of different contacts I'd had with the police. There were 50 different points of contact. That's just with one police force, yeah? 50 different named points of contact that we engaged and worked with, yeah? Nobody would own anything, you see. Nobody would actually own your question. Everything had to go through a process. There's a complaints process for this. There's a freedom of information process for that. There's a subject access review process for that. That belongs in the professional oversight department. That belongs with that department. You get the gist, and so it goes on. And what you want as a person, bear in mind, we're individuals. I don't have an admin department or a legal department that I can say, go and sort that out for me, right? This is it. This is the admin and legal department, right? So you end up talking to all these different things, but all you want is a conversation, and all you want is somebody to own the issue. So what happens is you say, well, can I talk to you about why you thought that? Oh, right, that means you want to put a complaint in. No, I don't want to put a complaint in. I just want to talk to you about why you thought that. And then if we can have that human conversation about why you thought that, then perhaps I can understand why you have said that in your letter, or why you've done that, or why you've chosen that course of action, and you might understand a bit more about where I'm coming from. Although, to be fair, I don't think many public services are too bothered or too asked about where people are coming from, are they? But no, there's no way of doing that. You can't simply have a conversation with somebody. And you know what's fascinating is the number of times when I was trying to do this, people would share a personal view with me, but wasn't the organisational view. And you sort of think, so even the people within the system understand that it's become pretty inhumane, pretty dumb, actually. The system is kind of dumb. It's incapable of responding. Now, I said I was going to introduce you to a concept called failure demand. Failure demand is all the work that's created because the first point of contact fucks up. Yeah. So let's bring this to life with a dead simple example. You've set up a call center, yeah, and in the first week, your call center gets 10,000 calls. Great. In the second week, it gets 15,000 calls. So you say to yourself, oh, I need more people in my call center because I'm getting more. There's more stuff coming through, more stuff we need to deal with. But when you get underneath the skin of it, if you realize that in that second week, if you had 10,000 calls in the first week, 15,000 calls in the second week, in that second week, if 5,000 of those calls were from the same people who rang the first week, but their problem wasn't dealt with, then that's called failure demand. So the failure demand is what emerges later as a consequence of not getting things right the first time, yeah? And public services are awash with this. And the reason it's super, super important to understand the concept is that when public services say, and they constantly do, don't they, that they need more money, and don't get me wrong, there are parts of the public sector that desperately need more money. The issue is, where do they spend that? Because it does seem, doesn't it, that we can just keep throwing more and more money into a black hole. And when you look at the way, take that example of Cumbria Police, 50 different points of contact. If they'd just given me a single point of contact to start with, and somebody that owned the problem and helped me, and somebody whose job it was to help me deal with questions and queries without putting me through a process or a form or a complaints procedure or a freedom of information request procedure, they would have saved a fortune. The thing is, I wonder actually if they're interested in saving money, or if it's just an exercise in self-preservation, in maintaining the organisation the way it is, keeping all their jobs, keeping the cushy numbers, and pretty much being answerable to nobody. So there is my thought, and I think I'm actually within my 5 minutes. Fantastic. There's a first time, almost a first time for everything, isn't there? On that note, have a good weekend. Try and stay safe. Try and stay solvent if you can. And as I say, try and stay sane, which we all know is even harder at the moment. Ciao.